Hi everyone, welcome to Obsoleet episode 7. I'm Famicoman, and this is the show where old technology goes to live. And I've got a pretty interesting episode for you guys today. I know it's been a while since I've done one, but I've been trying to put together, I've been working on some other projects, and filming kind of took the back seat for a little bit. But hopefully now, I have something substantial to show you guys. So, without further ado, I'm just going to go right into it talking about mini-discs. Hope you like it. Now, mini-discs are very interesting when you think about it. They came out in 1992, and the main idea was that they were going to replace cassette tapes. Now, cassette tapes came out in about 1964, and those CDs were out at the time that mini-discs came out. CDs didn't really have a lot of options in recording your own music onto them, making mixes like everybody liked with cassette tapes. So in 1992, the mini-disc came out, and it was pretty revolutionary. The disc is actually what is known as magneto-optical. Even though it's an optical disc, it still uses magnet technology, much like a hard drive. And what's really interesting is that it actually kind of behaves like a hard drive. So, files can be fragmented, you can join them, you can cut them, you can do all sorts of things directly on the mini-disc. Now, the mini-discs mainly failed due to the fact that CDs were gaining a lot of popularity. When a mini-disc came out, they actually had albums for sale on mini-disc. So, you go to the store, you buy a CD, of your favorite band, you could do that with a mini-disc. And the problem was there was not many albums released on the format, which is, kind of typical for like a starting out Sony product. They don't really have as much support. And that is one of the reasons that people ultimately blame it for failure. Another thing though is that Sony estimated that CDs wouldn't really take off as much because you had CDs but you didn't really have the recordable medium, and Sony thought it would take about 10 years until blank CDs gained popularity, but it actually happened much sooner than that. And it got to the point where buying one blank CD was a lot cheaper than buying one blank mini disc. And I'm going to go and show you some mini discs now. And it's interesting to know that mini-discs are still actually produced. Sony makes one player, one model still to this day, and I believe you can still get new blank discs. So like I said before, off to the mini-discs. Alright, so most of this stuff I got in all different places here. Starting with the left, these are like a whole bunch of mini-discs. If I just grab one here, you can see it says Remix Services version 2. I'm guessing whoever owned this before me was some sort of DJ or something. And this is actually, you can take the disc out of the case here, a little protective, and the discs look kind of like a cross between a CD and a floppy, I guess is the easiest way to say it. It says insert this end, you got the make on it, the model. You got a little switch so you can stop people from recording over it. I mean, you're just your basic little sort of disc. And then you can see from the collection I have over here, I got quite a few labeled. Some are blank. None of them appear to be like original, so I'm guessing somebody transferred all their music over for whatever reason. And then down going through this column, you can see that there's just this, little case. It has a bunch of, different colored discs, which I guess is kind of cool. But I mean, this is just something I guess a normal mini disc player enthusiast would have. Just a couple discs in a little box here. These are new discs that were actually sent to me by Cheese, and I kind of don't want to open them because I really do actually like the labels on them. They're standard mini discs. They're high MD compatible, so you can use them with high MD players. I actually do not think that these are high MD discs. I think, if I recall correctly, all mini discs are like backwards compatible with high MD, so I don't really know. I guess that's some clever marketing there. These are your standard mini discs if you want to get them from a store. This is what they look like. Then down here we go into players. This is a more basic player. So I mean, it has your little display, you got your menu, your group, you got all your controls, play, stop, fast forward, you got volume buttons. Now if we go to this side over here, this is a mini USB jack, because this is a Net-MD player, which means you can transfer from the computer to the Minidisc with this player. So you can hook that up to the computer. I'll show you that in a little bit. You got your hold button, which is very similar to like an iPod. You got your headphone jack. Over here is where you open it, so you just press it down. It opens up. You can put a disc in there. I'll show you that in a little bit. And then you got your battery slot, you know, single AA. Pretty straightforward. It's very similar to an MP3 player. Now I'm going to go to a more advanced player here. This is a little further down the line than Minidiscs. Same sort of display, group button, you got a search button, a menu button, and then you have all your play, stop, fast forward, rewind stuff, volume, pause, and this is interesting because there's a record function over here. So if you look to the side, you know, you got your standard little mini USB, you got your headphones, you also have a little kind of control slot here, your hold button, and this is a line-in optical port right here, so you can actually record music directly to the player, which is I guess it was really popular back in the day, you know, for making, I think like bootleg concert recordings was the most popular reason for recording on a mini disc. But I've also heard that some, you know, like I guess famous like radio personalities or something would often record to mini disc, and actually some musicians would record to mini disc, because I don't know, at the time, if you think about it, you had cassettes, and then CDs are still down the road, so Minidisc was where it was at. And you know, your same basic, you know, AA battery here, and if I open it up, you can see that I have a disc in there. It just pops right out. You know, your normal Sony disc, it has a label so you know which end to insert, and you just line it up, and then the player will actually just boot up, and then you can choose what song you want to hear. Now I also have a couple accessories. I'm not even going to bother taking these out of the bag, but I mean, you got this little like sort of control thing. So I guess if you wanted to use this mini disc player in your car or something, you wanted to put this on the dashboard so you can easily hit buttons. There's a little, you know, car adapter for power. And there's the mini disc like little holder, made out of fake leather or something. Then you have your normal, like, you know, AC to DC power converter if you want to use that. And now actually down here, I mean, this is a Minidisc deck remote, and I know you don't see the deck in front of you, so that's why right now I'm going to go upstairs and show you how to operate the Minidisc deck. But wait, before I show you the Minidisc deck, don't you think it would be a good idea to see how you actually put music onto a Minidisc? And I'm going to show you how to convert MP3s over to Sony's format, which is called A-Track. Now what's really interesting is that there's several different variations among the A-Track format. Now, my normal like little Net-MD Minidisc players, they'll play any version of A-Track you throw at it. Like there's A-Track, there's A-Track 3, there's A-Track 3 Plus. I haven't seen A-Track 2, I don't even know if that exists. But the deck will only play A-Track. So you have to tweak around a couple of options when you're transferring, and it'll let you play on the deck. I don't know if you can upgrade the deck at all, or I'm not sure, but at least I can get something to play, and I'm going to show you how to transfer music right now. Alright, to use a mini disc, we first have to transfer music onto it. Now what I use is a program called SonicStage, but if you go to the Sony website and download SonicStage, you might find it a little bit limited. Now what I have is a hacked version of SonicStage, which I will give a link to in the show notes, and it's made to improve basically, you know, functionality, stability, and if you're wondering why, it's because there's a lot of problems with incompatibility with SonicStage and newer operating systems. For example, I could never get it to run on Vista. I didn't even try it on Windows 7. And this version allows for Vista compatibility and Windows 7 compatibility, but it's notable that you need 32-bit Windows. The driver for the mini display will simply not work in 64-bit. So you can either go over to a 32-bit installation, or you can, you know, emulate Windows or do a virtual PC, I guess, with like XP or something. and then you can get it to work like that. Now, if you have a Mac, you're pretty much out of luck. Same thing if you have Linux. SonicStage is basically all you have for transferring to Minidisc. Sony put everything proprietary, so you need Sony software for Sony products. It's kind of stupid, but that's how it is. They've been trying to get a version that'll work on Linux, but I think development of that has stalled. So this is all you got for right now. Now, before we even get into the software, you have your mini disc player with a disc in it, and you're going to need a mini USB cable, and of course, a computer. So you just plug in the mini USB cable, and your mini disc player should start up. I don't know how well you can see it here, but it displays PC and then an arrow to MD, which means that it's connected. So you can just leave that over there. Now I'm not even going to bother doing a screen capture just because the software is pretty basic. It doesn't really even require one. But now, on the left column over here, that's where your library is. So if you have any MP3s or anything, you just toss them right in here. Now, when you plug in your mini disc player, it should just come up here on the right, all the songs that you have on it. Now, if you happen just to have a normal mini disc player, you can click this little thing right here, and that brings up a couple format options. There's standard transfer, there's special bitrate transfer, and then there's SP transfer mode, which is right at the bottom here. Now, I'm doing SP transfer mode, and I'm doing that because that's what my mini disc deck is compatible with. This takes a little bit longer. I really don't notice any difference between the audio quality at all, so I'm not entirely sure exactly how it works, but that's what's compatible, so that's what I'm using. Now, when I want to transfer my song, I just highlight it like it already is, and then hit the right arrow button. Pretty simple, huh? So now it should transfer over. It'll convert it into a track before it actually transfers it, and then after it converts it, it will start the transfer. Now, something really important, make sure that the battery in your mini disc player is pretty good. Sometimes the battery meters on the mini disc player don't really show the actual life of the battery, so you definitely want to make sure your battery has at least enough juice in it for, I don't know, a couple of minutes while it's transferring, because I had a problem where mine was actually cutting out, so I'd be about, I don't know, 90% transferred, and then all of a sudden it would fail and the mini disc player would be off and I'd have to go change batteries. So right now it's transferring, and I'm going to save you guys the having to watch the bar just go up by 1% increments. So I'm going to go right now over to the mini disc deck and show you guys what playback is like. Alright, so this is my mini disc deck. I got this at an auction with most of those mini discs you saw. I think the total was about 20 bucks. This is actually a pretty nice player. You have your power button over here. This is where you actually put in the disc. You get your display, eject. This moves between tracks. We also have some other features here. We have an edit button. It's actually like a no-yes combo. It's kind of weird. We got a display button, scroll button, play mode, repeat, and this is like fast forward, rewind, play, pause, stop, record. You also have recording mode, so you can choose stereo or analog, and you have your input for digital or analog, because this deck actually has analog and digital input output, so you can even like hook this up to a higher end stereo system. And over here you have your recording level, you have your phone level for earphones, as well as your 1/4-inch jack. Now, I have this hooked up into my stereo right now, so I'm going to pop in the mini disc that we made, and if everything goes to plan, we'll be listening to some music. So that takes it in. Now it's reading it right now. You look over at the display. Alright, so it says there's 3 tracks, which is right, totaling 9 minutes and 18 seconds. So we'll hit the play button. And there you go. The music plays through the Minidisc. And so this will work on the Minidisc deck. It'll work on the little Net-MD players. And that's Minidiscs. Hope you enjoyed this segment. Now for my review this episode, I thought I'd do something a little different. I've been showing off a lot of like modern movies and stuff, but today I'm going to show you something that's a little bit older. Now this is a little book called Secrets of a Super Hacker. And it's by The Nightmare, which I'm sure is his real name. It's from 1994, and it's a really interesting book. Now you might be asking, like, what is it exactly? It's not like you'd think it would be like some sort of hacker manual, where it's kind of like, you know, this is how you own a box or something. But it's a really interesting kind of like, I don't know exactly how to say it. I guess I can say it through another example. If you've ever read or know about Steal This Book by Abby Hoffman, it kind of reads a little bit similar to that, where it's more like a survival guide instead of just you know, let's go out and cause chaos for everybody. And if you think about, you know, Abby Hoffman and the Yippie movement and how hacking kind of came from the Yippie movement, you can see the parallels. And this book feels a lot like Steal This Book. But it has a lot of interesting stuff here. Like chapter 1 is the basics. You know, you talk about modems and speed and hacker motivations and computer crime. Then chapter 2 is the history of hacking, which is kind of interesting. It goes with Yipple and Tab 2600. And one part is called War Games and Frack, which is, you combine the movie War Games with Frack. That's kind of, I don't know why you would want to do that exactly, but... And then you go, you know, researching the hack, you know, planning what hack you're going to do, passwords and access control, which, you know, you make a basic program that looks like a login screen so you can get your friend to type in their password, or you shoulder surf. And then there's social engineering, reverse social engineering, public access computers and terminals, you know. Yeah. On-site hacking if you want to like break in somewhere or you want to do trashing. Hacking at home, dial-up computers, you know, you go on BBSs. That's chapter 10, BBSs. Borderline hacking if you want to hack for money, which I don't know why they'd put that in this book exactly. Or what you do when you've got inside a system. Hacker security, keep yourself from getting caught. And the conclusion of the hacker's ethic, you know, it's just really weird stuff like that. This book is probably like, I guess you could say that it's worthless today. I mean, the social engineering stuff is probably still good. I'm not really sure if I take this book seriously. It feels kind of jokey, kind of serious. But all in all, it's really interesting. It's kind of like a slice of the, you know, the 1990s sort of, you know, hacker mythic. I don't know like where this book was even sold, if you could actually get this in bookstores, or what's up with it. I don't even remember where I got this from, probably some yard sale, but it's really interesting, and I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon for a pretty cheap price, so if you're really that interested in like kind of old hacking survivor guides, I'm sure you can pick it up. So once again, that is Secrets of a Super Hacker by The Nightmare from 1994, so if you want to find it, you know, go right ahead, and if you don't, I don't really blame you. So now let's move on to the next segment, which is Digitizing VHS. Alright, so say that you have a couple of VHS tapes that are out of print. For example, here's Separate Vacations, and here's Survival Run. Now, these tapes have never made it onto DVD, and will probably never make it to Blu-ray. So what can we do to preserve them? Well, it all starts with a VCR. Now, you'll need a VCR, a fairly decent one. You're going to want one that has stereo audio output. If you look back here, this only has mono audio output. So you have jacks for video and audio. Now, if you had stereo, you'd have lines of 3 jacks. This one only has 2. So you definitely don't want to get a VCR like this. You definitely want to preserve your stereo sound. So, talking about the history of tape duplication, back in the 90s you had something like this, which is a Sima video CopyMaster. Has an option for color and black and white, and it also has S-video and RCA outputs and inputs, as well as a jack for power. Now, this was really good at the time for making VHS to VHS tape copies. It would also get rid of copy protection and provide a more stable image. However, nowadays these are pretty much useless. Now, when you want to copy from a VHS tape over to something digital, it all starts out with a type of capture source. Now right here, bring this into frame. This is a standard Samsung DVD recorder. I got this for about $7 at a local Goodwill. On the back you can see it has many jacks here. You have digital audio out, you have your standard composite out, component out, HDMI out, but you also have some nice inputs here. You have your composite video input as well as S-video input. When capturing VHS, a lot of people go DVD recorders just because they're inexpensive. Some people, will use like the little USB capture cards or older PCI capture cards, but these don't really have as much success. Some people will also use the pass-through options on their camcorders, so that way you can hook the VCR into the camcorder and have the camcorder go over FireWire into your computer for capture. And there's also other devices that are like little boxes, so you just plug in your composite video and your analog audio into the box, and then the box has USB or FireWire out, so you can capture into your computer. Now, something interesting that you have to take into account is that you need video stabilization. Mostly you'll need it. This is a video stabilizer. It's a little cheap one from eBay for about 25 bucks. It says here VCR to VCR connection, but you can use these for anything. It has composite input-output using RCA, and it has a 9-volt jack, or you can put a 9-volt battery inside. I choose to use the jack. Now, these stabilize the video source. So if you ever have a VHS tape that's a little like rocky, or even one with copy protection, this will totally stabilize it out, give it clean signal, remove copy protection. And you might be asking, well, I don't have any copy protected tapes. These are also really good just for cleaning up the image. And some capture cards on computers will actually not let you copy, because if your tape is a little screwy, it thinks it's copy protected. So you should definitely think about a stabilizer. If you want to go a little more professional, there's something called a time-based corrector, which is used a lot professionally for cleaning up VHS, I guess, the signal, because it doesn't always interact well with more modern electronics. So it'll give you a nice clean signal. Those go on eBay for anywhere between like $100 and $500 for a really nice one. You can find a lot of old ones by Studio One or Signed Video, which are still very good. It's a very nice company. There's also some other little electronics that are like, they market themselves as like tape to DVD or DVD to DVD. And they're just little devices. They look similar to the stabilizer, but most of them are actually put out by Sima, which makes the CopyMaster I was showing before, and they go upwards of $100 on eBay. So if you can, I just say go with a little stabilizer. Make sure that the price is right, and they're pretty much disposable. Mine had a little bit of a problem with it at first, but it was easily fixable. Actually, one of the jacks came a little undone, so I had to open it up and do a little bit of resoldering. But it's a little flimsy, but I mean it's pretty good value considering it was only about $20–25. Now this might be enough for some people if they want to take their VHS and digitize it, but I like to clean up the signal a little bit. First I'm going to talk to you about processors. These are video processors. I prefer the Vidicraft brand of processors. They're semi-professional. They're pretty high quality. They're built in the 80s. They look great. I mean, it's like brushed steel. You can tell that somebody spent a lot of time, put a lot of money into making these, and they still hold up. Some other brands that you might want to look for are Vidionics and Kramer, and I'm even going to show some of the Radio Shack ones, which are actually pretty decent. But I'm just showing you here, there's a little luminescence level that shows you the brightness of your video. You can choose mono, bypass, color, or off. So if you have black and white, if you don't want to see the adjustments, or if you have color. You also have luma gain, so that controls brightness. You have color gain, so do you need more color, less color. You also have phase, which actually like tweaks the color palette. It's very interesting. On the back here, you have input. This is an RCA jack. I had to modify mine because mine broke. You also have 4 outputs for video. Like I was saying, this is semi-professional. Like I don't know any normal person who would need 4 video outputs. But this is a very nice piece of hardware. So then going over to the Radio Shack brand here. This is an Archer video color processor. And you have intensity, which is I'm pretty sure the same as brightness. You have your chroma, which is it's very similar to the Vidicraft model. Burst. You also have hue, so you can change green, red, blue. And your bypass switch over here. And then your A/B switch for source. I had to modify mine because the power actually broke. The intensity is also the power switch. Normally if you flick it on, it just goes on, but mine actually broke inside, so I added a little switch. And you can see the video in and the video out on the back. Now, going into something else called a detailer, which is sort of like a video processor, but it provides more detail as opposed to like color or light settings. So much like the processor, it has monochrome, bypass, and color, and the off option. There's also detail, which will add more detail to the picture. Sharpness makes it sharper. VNX, which is vertical noise. And I'm not actually sure exactly what that one does. And the good thing about this is I'm going to show you how all of these work coming up soon in this segment. So this is the detailer too. On the back here, look at all these jags here. You have 3 inputs, 4 outputs. So you have a lot going on here. Now going back to Radio Shack, here's a video enhancer stabilizer, which is very similar to the Vidicraft model. You have your lock, you have delay, enhance, and VNR, which are all sort of stabilization features. You have a fade switch here, and then you have your source switch. And on the back here you can see it's a little more complicated. You kind of have like a TV out thing going on. And you also have audio in and video out options, as well as an audio level for the output. Now we're going to go into, here's an interesting model, which is also by the Radio Shack company Archer. This is kind of like a super video processor, as it's named. It's like a combination of a processor and a detailer. So you have a comparator, you have an enhancer, brightness, color, VNR. See, it's sort of a hybrid device. You also have a fade, if you want to fade in and out picture for editing. You have a stereo synthesizer. So if you have like a mono sound or something, you can try to get it synthesized stereo, so it like makes up its own stereo. And then you have VCR 1, 2 switches, and then of course in the back you have all your inputs. It's looking a little more mono. This is definitely a later model of the processor. And now something interesting, there's also sound processors, which I personally don't find much of a use for, but here's another one by Archer. You have noise reduction, you have stereo synthesizer, much like that super processor I was showing you. You have a stereo expander. You also have a tape monitor mode, and you have a source for VCR or your receiver. In the back it's just, audio jacks and a switch for your source, VCR, TV. And another weird device I have here, an Ambico video enhancer audio mixer. So you have a bunch of audio inputs in the back, audio outputs and video outputs. And what's weird is I can see that there's a sort of mixing setting here. There's also a video enhance setting. I'm not entirely sure what that does. I haven't really given this piece of hardware a good test. There's also a headphone jack on the side that someone labeled. So I mean, if you get any of these sort of smallish kind of video processors, they're good to try out. Most of the Vidicraft stuff that I have, I really like Vidicraft. I got those for about $20, $25 on eBay. The Archer stuff was about, I think I got that mostly as a lot. It was $25 for 3 of them, and then the Super Enhancer was maybe 15, 25 separately. So yeah, you can basically get a good way to transfer your VHS tapes over to digital for under $100, maybe even under $50, depending on how much of the options that you want here. So right now I'm going to move over and show you a live demonstration of transferring. And I'm actually going to use a dual deck VCR, which I'll show you guys in later segments, but this is just a little taste of what a dual deck VCR is. So now we're going to go see what everything looks like. Alright, so I have my tape in the VCR. Now that's hooked all the way through composite cables down here. That goes into the stabilizer. Now it comes out of the stabilizer, goes into the processor, and then goes out of the processor and into the detailer. Now after it goes into the detailer, it goes all the way over here, over to the DVD recorder. Now normally I would record right after I'm tweaking all the settings, but for the sake of this demonstration I'm recording so you can see the video tweaks in real time. Now after the DVD recorder I go right into the TV so I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm not going to be showing you the TV, I'm just going to copy this disc so that way it's a lot clearer. As for the sound, I go directly from the VCR into the DVD recorder. Some of the processors have sound inputs, but I just tend to not use them at all. It probably only really degrades signal anyway. So back down here, stabilizer we don't have to touch, which is good. It's already doing its job. So now over here in the processor, there's a little luminescence kind of display over here. I can zoom in a bit. So that's where you know where your light is. Over here you have monochrome, bypass, and color, and off. So if you have a black and white image, you choose monochrome. Bypass if you don't really want to use the processor, you want to see what it looked like before, and color if you're using color. And that's what that toggle does. Now we go over here, and we're in the gain unity for light, and we have the gain for chroma, and then over here we have the phase for chroma. So I'm just going to show you for light, if your picture's dark you can make it brighter, if it's a little too bright you can make it darker, whatever you're feeling. For chroma, do you need more color? So I think we might need a little more color. How's that? Do we need more light? Maybe a tad of brightness. And then for the phase, this is basically your typist colors. If you want to make it look really weird, you can do that. I'll just leave it, yeah, I'd say normal on that. Now we work our way down over here to the detailer. It's very similar, they're made by the same company. So mono, bypass, color, I chose color. Do that by the mode here. Now the detailer will, as you can probably figure out, give you more detail. So you have your detail, so I can show you what this looks like. Now you don't want to go too detailed, it gets kind of blocky. But if you need a little bit of detail, maybe more definition, that'll work for you. Then we have sharpness, it's very similar. You don't want too much sharpness, you might want a little bit. And then your VNX, which is vertical noise reduction. This I usually don't see much of a change in, so I try to leave this low. And then you have your source selector, because this can support up to 3 sources. Then over here, as I said before, you have your DVD recorder. I chose a recording mode for, right now, I think the lowest is an hour, so I'm recording for an hour. It has modes for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, so if you have a long movie, you can change whichever mode you want to use. So this is the basics of actual real-time video processing and detailing. This is how I get all of my old out-of-print VHS tapes, laser discs, etc. into a DVD-R, then I rip it on my computer and do some editing there. I mostly just change them into like an XVID format, but if you just want, to throw out your old tapes that aren't on DVD, you can just copy it right to a DVD and then keep it in your collection. So, hope you like this segment. This has been Digitizing VHS. Hope you guys liked that episode of Obsolete. Before I close the show, got a couple things to say. For one, you might have noticed the Obsolete t-shirt I'm wearing. This is actually my own design t-shirt. which is up for sale. Cheese also designed a t-shirt. So, you know, whichever one that you prefer, you know, give me a shout out and we'll see if we can, you know, choose which one to go to. I'm going to be wearing them both on the show. So, you know, doesn't really matter if you like one more than the other. They can be made. So, moving on from that, as always, have a couple of shout outs. Of course, shout out to Cheese. He sent me a box of stuff. All that stuff is going to be coming up on next episodes. Moonlit, as always, for, you know, supplying music, and I love using his music on the show because it's pretty good. He hasn't been producing as much lately, but, you know, hopefully you guys can pop into the IRC and be like, Moonlit, more music. So, yeah, do that. I'm sure he'll love that. But still going. I've been working on some other projects lately. IPTV torrents, and I'm doing that with Corrosion of This, which I plugged on the show last time. Definitely give him some more props. He recently had an interview with John Draper, so you should definitely check that out. Also working on that with Secret52, who runs Hack 5 torrents, and you know, that just all kind of blends together with me doing work on the IPTV archive. And I mean, you know, a torrent site was the logical step to go, I guess. It's still a little small right now. It definitely needs more support. So, you know, if you like older shows, definitely hop on that. As always, got to give props out to Shin Marayu, who's a great guy. He recently, you know, plugged me on one of his shows, and he's just doing some great stuff over on YouTube, so you should definitely check him out. Also like to give a word out for Binary Revolution forums and the Rant Media forums. You guys are always very supportive. I'd also especially like to thank New York Phone Jacks, or NY Phone Jacks, however he wants to be named, because he gave me a shout out on his blog a little bit ago, so I'd love to return the favor. And that's it for this episode of Obsoleet. I hope you enjoyed it, and I definitely hope to bring you more episodes soon. Time's been a little tight lately, but I always try to find time to film, and here are the fruits of my labor. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Excuse me, young man. You've got to stop playing the games. You're a disgrace. Excuse me. Sir, would you stop playing the games? Young man, you must listen to me. Hey! Hey! I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to have food on the games.
No one's ever gotten 7 figures on this machine before. Not even me. I know this machine's capable of 7 figures.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but I work here now, and I find your appearance highly objectionable. I suggest that you just trot on out of here and come back when you're in better condition to play the game.
Let you and me see what's inside this, okay?
Hey, here now! What are you doing? You can't do that.
Watch me.
I am just going to go get Mr. Jefferson Bailey, is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, you do that.
Excuse me, we have an emergency.
Is something wrong with the machine, Dorcas? No, I'm just trying to get it open to see what's inside of it. Had a real good game going, babe. Interrupt.
Yes, sir. I thought he...
That's okay, Eugene. We know what you thought, but I'm going to introduce you to Jonathan Andrew McDorfus.
Thank you.
Hi. Eugene, you must remember Dorfus. He graduated last year with me at school. He was our senior class president.
You're kidding. He was the senior class president last year? He didn't look anything like this. What happened?
Games, kid. Video games.